Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Grayson Gurnsey about Virgin River Season 4 recently dropped on Netflix. Welcome back to the show, man. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. I love it. It's like a tradition,
it's it really is a tradition, right? New season, new interview.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my God.
It's pretty crazy, right, to think that we are watching Season 4 of Virgin River. We're going back to Virgin River for the 4th time. Do you remember those days where it was the first season? And now it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I remember. Honestly, like the funny thing about the show is I really have grown up. When I started the show, I was 18 years old. I'm like 21 now. And I spent all these crazy years not knowing anything about anything. And I feel like I've learned so much on the show. And it's like 4 seasons. God, everyone on the show was like, yeah, maybe 3. Like that was like everyone's thing. They're like, if we're lucky, we'll make it to 3, you know, but who knows? And it's like 4 seasons. And now they're like, just going to keep going. And I can't wait to see it.
And I will tell the viewers right now that are watching this interview, spoiler alert, because we might be talking about some stuff. So please, craziness for Ricky, just like the arc of growth and everything, just the journey, like an unbelievable journey, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's crazy. Completely different from season 1. Like everything's different. Yeah, I love it.
Like everything is different.
Yeah.
And got to make a lot of decisions. You know, his love life is kind of like up in the air because he has to make a decision that will lead to everything. So what is it fun playing a character who really doesn't know what to think of certain situations? And like, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, it is really, it's really honestly crazy fun being able to do this character and all these swirling thoughts and feelings and how it gets more complicated every season for him is just fantastic. I think that this was probably my favorite season for at least Ricky, if not every single character, honestly, in the show. Everyone goes through so much. Honestly, I don't know who doesn't cry in this season.
Yeah.
Like, I actually don't know who doesn't cry in this season. And it was such a journey. Even in this one season, it felt like there was so much that went on for me and everyone. And yeah, it's just crazy. I love this show, man.
Oh, absolutely. He's got to make decisions. He makes decisions. He doesn't tell certain people. Certain people get upset at him.
People get upset at him.
When you see that on script, like how far in advance do you see the arc and the storylines for Ricky specifically?
Honestly, it was because the funny thing is the showrunner would tell us kind of like what the feeling was about the show and what was kind of going to happen, and then you're like, oh, cool. But you get revealed to it like episode by episode, because we'd they'd send us the scripts and we'd film them for like 2 weeks. So every week and a half we'd get a new script. And I'd be like, I don't know what's going on. Like, we're gonna find this out. Like, so it felt like I was reading a novel, and I was getting like little weekly updates, and it's kind of gonna be like how it feels for the audience. But it was just nuts, man. I was confused and I never knew what was going on, and I was like, I got the idea, I knew, but it was still shocked me how everything went down, and I was like upset, and I was like, Ricky,
and again, spoiler alert, but just kind of, you know, Jack and Ricky and kind of you officially going and everything, you know what I mean, and going to the army. Like, I bet that was emotional to film. I bet it was emotional, right? Because it represents like you like parting ways with the town of Virgin River, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna try not to cry. It was a really emotional scene, because it was like my like second to last day, and it was funny because it was like I had done one scene before. It was the scene where I said goodbye to Lizzie and everyone else, and it was fun, and I was still kind of like upbeat. And then it was like it like hit me while we were about to film the scene that I was like, damn, like I'm I'm like leaving the show for who knows how long, honestly.
Yeah.
And I might be back soon, or I might be back never. We don't know,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. And I was filming this scene, and it was draining, like it was rainy and it was cold. And I was just like,
Mhm.
it's just like, whoa, it like all hit me at once. And doing that scene, it was, yeah, it was really emotional.
I'm just
And
curious.
I hope it reads well. Yeah.
Absolutely, but I'm just curious because Kai Bradbury joins the season as Denny, and there's
Yeah.
with Sarah Dugdale played by who plays Lizzie, like that whole
Yeah.
kind of like, do we call it like a love triangle? Is that kind of what we say? Because
I don't know.
Ricky is kind of Ricky's like they're upset at Ricky. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah, it was like because when I was reading it, I was even hesitant to think of it as a love triangle because I was like, I don't know, man. She feels pretty over him for the most part. It's like he's not over her, but she's done, dude. She's done. Yeah.
I don't even know if you can call it a love triangle. That's a very good point because she is like done. Is it so? What's that like though for you specifically? Like you've been on the show, since season 4. You got up to the series regular in season 2.
Yeah.
And then now there's this storyline with Denny and Lizzie and everything. What's that like seeing that kind of thrown into Virgin River specifically? What from like a fan or from like an actor like that? I love that because I was enjoying that. I enjoyed Denny's introduction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love him. Kai is awesome. He's super personable and super awesome and just great guy all around. And he does a fantastic job with the character. They gave him some really fantastic stuff this season. I love the reveal about like how he's got this like, I can't remember what the disease is. It's been a while, but it was like such a crazy reveal and it all made sense then. And it was just it's such a good character for what's going to be such a tragic love story.
Yes.
And I think it was exactly what the show needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really happy to see all that come together. I mean, I was also, because like the thing is that I'm so similar to Ricky in so many different ways that it's it's hard not to be like, oh man, this sucks for me and my character. And I'm like, oh I'm so upset about like how everything's like winding up for Ricky. But I realized that was exactly how I should feel for these scenes and these parts. So like I just kind of decided to be myself on all of these scenes where I'm like, damn, this sucks, like everything's getting stolen from him. And yeah, it was just a great way to factor in everything. But I have nothing but absolute love for the season. I think it's the best so far, honestly.
And I feel like that's the point, right? Like when you get renewed for a new season, I mean, you want to obviously expand the characters and the developments and stuff, but you want to make it better than the previous season. Like that's like the point in the writer's room.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that like it's funny because I love all the seasons. They all have like such a special place in my heart. But I feel like every season gets better because there's less about getting to know the people and more just seeing them in these circumstances and seeing them in such stressful environments and seeing how they deal with them. And that's what I like every season more than the last. Like I feel like a broken record because every time I come on here, I'm like, oh my God, best season yet. And I'm like, I sound
fourth
like
time fourth time in a
row, dude, best season ever. Like, but it's like, seriously, that's the best thing about the show is that like everything changes and grows, but people stay the same and they're always like consistent. And I love that out of the show. So best season ever.
Is it fun? I think the reason why people love the show, like I'm starting to realize that because it's got such a passionate fan base worldwide. Netflix obviously is the big is the big reason behind that because it's available in so many countries. Totally. But the combination of you're rooting for every character in many, and like at some point, right? Even if they're like misunderstood or make bad decisions, you're rooting for everyone in the end, right? If you think about that. Yeah. And then 2, it's about like people in Virgin River, a small town. Like it's a real show if you think about it.
Yeah, it's it's a real slice of life, and just like, yeah, I just think it's just perfect. Honestly, I love the show. Even if I wasn't on it, I'd still watch it.
Yep.
Like I just really enjoy. In fact, it's hard for me to watch myself, so I kind of like skim through the scenes that I'm in. But but watching every character, and like, it's hard to have a show where there's really no antagonists.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't expecting you to say that. That was great.
No, like, even, yeah, like, because I'm like, oh, brilliant, but I'm like on my PlayStation, I'm just kind of like, I'm like, yeah, that's me. But like, I don't really like watching myself.
You also know what happens too, right? Like, if you know that like a certain take was taken, you're like, you know what's gonna happen.
I know what's gonna happen, and it's that funny thing when you're filming a scene and you're like, oh man, I really made that choice in the scene. Like, I did that, and I was like, oh. But I mean, I don't have that many times. Just every now and then, I'm like, oh god, I don't want to see the scene.
But yeah,
like,
you'd be a fan though, absolutely, if you weren't on it.
Yeah, totally.
It's so crazy. Other than that, besides Virgin River, I mean, how have you been? Like, how's your summer been so far? Everything good?
Oh my god, it's amazing. I'm in Calgary right now, and I just finished going to the Stampede. It was so much fun. I loved it, and I'm gonna be in Seattle by the time that this releases, that this new season drops, and I'm just taking my time. I had such a great season that I'm taking a full vacation, just enjoying my life.
Well, that's the thing too. It was very emotional in terms of like I feel like it was just an emotional season for Ricky. Not only the fact that he's kind of departing, but just even if he didn't depart, I think like a lot kind of happens with him. So I feel like it's going to be emotional either way, and you're going to need that break regardless.
Yeah, no, it was super emotional, and I just loved, like, I loved the emotional aspects of it, because it means that it meant something to me, and it was real, because it wouldn't be anything if I was just like, yeah, whatever, it's just a show I was on, and just kind of like left. But yeah, like I said, I'm happy that I'm as emotional as I am, because it meant a lot to me, being on the show, being with the characters, and getting to know all these fantastic people. Like, every single one of them have taught me something.
I did have a quick question for you about one of your earlier projects called Game On YTV, because we never really talk about that before. No, but I actually have like an actual question about it.
Yeah.
You were young. You were a kid when you worked on that.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, because I interview a lot of actors that started on, Disney Channel or Nickelodeon, right? And then they ended up getting older and then worked on shows on Netflix and HBO and everything, right? And totally, I'm curious. So when you were working on YTV, when you were working on the show on YTV, did you think of it as a stepping stone, or was it just work for you as a kid? You know what I mean by that? Like, did you see it as like, oh, I'm gonna get the ropes shown a little bit, and then I'm gonna eventually be on Netflix or anything? Or were you just like, oh, I'm ready, let's work, let's go? Like, what? I'm just curious about that.
It was kind of both, to be honest. I remember, because it was such a crazy casting process, because for Virgin River, I totally thought I messed up the audition, and it was this whole thing where I said lines wrong, and I was like, I called my mom, and I was like, yeah, these casting directors are never gonna see me again. Heard nothing for like a month, and then they're like, can you be on set in a week? And it was that like spontaneous.
That's motivation right there too, right? When you think you screw it.
Yeah, I was like, man, these casting directors aren't going to see me for a while. Like, they're going to shelve me. But then I felt very lucky. But for Game On, it was this crazy process where they had auditioned people like Canada-wide. They needed to see a lot of people for this role. And I auditioned for it once. I didn't hear anything for a while. And then they're like, oh yeah, do a second audition. Here's like 2 extra scenes, just do the same thing. Just like do it the same, whatever. I ended up auditioning like 4 or 5 times. The producers had dropped down to Vancouver to say hello and see the people they wanted. And then they brought me over to Montreal for like 3 days. So I like met up, and I did these auditions with the people who they ended up hiring. Mm-hmm. And then I did these other interviews with the director and the producer. And it was this whole crazy process. And I was like, whoa, dude, this is going to be sick. Like, this is some sort of like this is going to be some major show. Like, they're really putting me through the paces. And then we did 1 season, and then we never heard back. But I was like, yo, this is going to like this is going to launch everything, and this is going to be like the starting point. Like, and it was kind of both in a way. Like, I was so desperate to try and work on some new things.
100%.
I got some like really good experience on that show. Like the director and stuff like that was just fantastic. Yeah.
No, it's really good because I always ask that because I'm always curious about mindsets. Like, what are you thinking when you're like young, you're a lead of a show? Like, I always thought that's interesting. You know what I mean? So that's why I want to ask.
Yeah, it was funny because like when you're talking about it, it kind of, in a weird way, thinking back on it, it became both of those experiences at the same time. For the first part, I was like, it's gonna be this crazy stepping stone. Yeah, I'm gonna be so famous.
And then you get immersed, and you're like, I'm here to work.
Yeah, and then you're getting immersed, and it just becomes a regular activity. I would go on to set, I'd read my sides, and then we'd film about sometimes like an episode in a day or a day and a half, because we filmed like so quickly. And it was just like, it wasn't anything anymore. And you're just like, oh yeah, I'm just on set, just working, whatever. It's just my life.
Yeah, exactly. You see, it was a good question about Game On.
It was a fantastic question. No, it was a fantastic question. I love it.
Game On, because it's a combination. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you did that show like a long time ago, right? Like, at the end of the day, like. Like that's basically what it is. But the thing, it's it's so crazy, and I'm so happy for you and the whole cast of Virgin River, and season 4 is amazing. Grayson, thank you so much for coming back on Popternative. You're a 4-time guest now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Do I get an award eventually?
Do you get like a mug or something? I'll send a mug to Calgary or something.
Like 4 times on Popternative.
Man, it's pretty crazy because I remember the first time we did it. Like, our first couple were like peak pandemic. I don't know if you remember. Like, we were just
and it was like, I haven't seen anyone for like a week. How about you?
And then we did the second one, and it was a year. Like, it was like a little bit after, and it felt like I haven't like talked to you in like 3 years. It was so weird.
Yeah, I know. I was like, because I remember I was like, God, I wonder if I'm ever gonna do like, because by the time I did a third interview, it felt like it'd been so long, and I was like, God, I feel like I've seen Pete in like forever. Like, where is he? Like, what's he up to? And I was like checking up on your Instagram, and I was like, whoa, this dude's blowing up, and like just going crazy.
I know. They're so crazy. I knew it, but it's funny how we both know. It's like, I'm sure you were waiting for that message, close to the 20th, right?
Yeah, because I was like, I was just contemplating just texting you, because I was like, man, I should get some interviews lined up. And I'm like, I haven't seen Petey in a while, man. I gotta socialize. Like,
absolutely. So all episodes of Virgin River season 4 available now on Netflix. Instagram's the best way for them to keep a date with you, right? Instagram, Grayson Gurnsey.
Oh yeah, totally. That's really the only one I'm on.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Grayson Gurnsey and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.